Welcome into Red River North. Dave Myrick and Randy Heights at 1077 The Franchise on this extremely hot Wednesday night, which Randy is outside. I'm not surprised to see that. The guy's inhuman. Randy, how we doing tonight?
Good, good. It is hot today. I told somebody at work after you left, was like, I had to go get my tag. I was like, okay, today's the first day of summer. Today is hot. It was very hot. But in the shade, there's a breeze blowing in the back
I
patio now, so not too bad.
nope. Big nope rope for me. I did see Will Rogers Airport got over 100, I think, for the first time this year. Josh Manning in the chat as we lose Randy's picture. I think I can
No,
still
I'm
hear
here. I
Randy, but
just had it.
can't. There we
I was pulling up a website. I got my depth chart pulled up, so I was kind of trying to look at it while we do this.
look at you. You're ready to go. What's up, Dave and Randy, Jimmy Satterfield, Gmo? What's up, gentlemen? Everybody filling up the chat. All right, let's dive right into it. People want to know. Brent Venables at the podium today, along with Ben Arbuckle. Randy, some things that stuck out to me as we talked about today. I didn't like hearing it, man. Eli Bowen, look, going into this season, the defense I think is going to be really good, but part of that was based on the personnel you expect to have on the field. Eli Bowen is a big piece of that, opposite Gentry Williams. If Williams can stay healthy, not off to a good start as far as recycling injuries and having that pop back up right here at the start of
Yeah,
camp.
I'll say this. That's different, though, little one. As far as it's not. It's not then that you want that to happen, no. But I kind of wonder, even though it's a banged up deal, is it more one of those,
No,
let's just get it right? Did they learn some lessons from last year, like rushing guys back, which causes nagging injuries and those soft tissue injuries, to just continue all year long? So, I think it's easy for us all to panic about injuries, but I saw George Soya even tweeted today when somebody is saying, but nothing to address the injury situation. They have a new athletic trainer. They hired him a month ago. It's kind of one of those things. I wonder if this is early in the season. It's better to be, you know, cautious than getting out there for the first two games. Because even though Michigan's good, Dave, do we really think they're going to air it out a ton?
well, talking to Kelly today about that, they've always been ground and pound, right? You think Michigan, the Big Ten, nasty weather, try to kick your ass on the ground, but they did bring in a new OC from North Carolina, that was up there for a while, and they like to throw the ball around. He had some good success with Drake May to come in and work with Bryce Underwood. So I expect that offense to change a little bit. How much can you, as far as installing goes in 2 months with a true freshman quarterback? I'm with you there. It's just kind of the stigma coming off of last year with all the injuries that everybody saw at pretty much every spot on the OU team to kick this thing off right here, first day of camp, media day, and oh yeah, there's a starting cornerback that's out. And that's not good news, in my opinion, for a spot that already is kind of like, we don't know who the guys are going to be, man. I mean, Gentry Williams can't make a tackle without having to get out for the entire season. There's names galore. Cortland Gilroy, I guess, a true freshman. Hearing great things about him. I love his size, but beyond that, there's just Devin Jordan, a highly touted guy. We haven't seen a lot. Jacoby Johnson. Only thing I remember him for was falling down against Missouri, that lost pretty much Oklahoma that game. So I'm concerned about the cornerback spot.
Yeah, I think, and I think rightfully so, just depth wise, because a lot of it is young. But I will say
Right.
this: Jacoby Johnson, you mentioned him, and I know you remember that one. Highly, highly talented kid. He's a kid that, trust me, for every OU fan that gripes about what he did last year, he's also the guy that every OU fan would have bitched that year if he wouldn't have signed at Oklahoma. I mean, he's very good. He's a young, athletic kid, and so it's kind of like I think part of it's you're going to have to see him play, and in a way, this could be a good thing. I'll say in some ways, in these early games, these first two, three games, maybe it's getting out there and getting some of those young guys some experience before, God forbid, a key injury happens against Texas, Auburn, LSU, and then you're throwing a freshman or somebody out there getting their first real competitive snap. So I'm not real worried about Michigan going haywire. And I know what you're saying, a new offensive coordinator, freshman quarterback, new
Yeah.
system. And I think the big thing there is I would worry about it a little more, even with the freshman quarterback coming in with Michigan, if this was an offensive team around that freshman quarterback that knew the playbook. But they're learning it
Yeah.
as well. And so that's why I'm kind of like, let's just be cautious if you're Oklahoma. Be cautious with Eli. Let these other guys get some key snaps against some talented teams. And you're right, could bite them in the ass, no doubt. But I think it's worth the chance just to make sure everything's right instead of something that turns into a 7-8 week nagging injury all season long.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned with Oklahoma losing to Michigan because Eli Bowen's out. I just don't like coming off last year with all the injury BS that Oklahoma went through to have that immediately as the first thing that comes out of Brent's mouth today is, oh, yeah, there's a starting cornerback that's out at a position that people really are unsure about. I mean, I hate to speculate on what's going on. I think everybody has heard whispers, but behind closed doors, what this could be. But you just worry about, Kendall Dolby coming back. That was a gruesome leg injury suffered against Tennessee. These guys have to get back to a point, even when they're healthy, of trusting what they've got, trusting that they are healthy. Kendall Dolby, I mean, that leg was in bad shape. The first time he's got to make a hard cut on the field, is he really going to have that in the back of his mind to go full speed, or is it, nah, I don't know. That hurt last time that I did that. I mean, there's so much to coming off an injury. I'm sick and tired of injuries at Oklahoma. That's pretty much what I can tell you after
Yeah.
last year.
Well, and I think here's the thing: if you want to look at the Dolby thing, the one thing that's positive about his rehab, I like what Brent said today. He can play corner some this year,
He did
which
in
tells
JUCO.
you
Yeah.
right. But I'm saying to your point about the rehab and what he's like coming off this injury, that should tell you, I think, hey, maybe he's way ahead of schedule in his rehab. Because, again, if he wasn't back, and Gmo, you're right, he was recruited as a CB. But that's the thing. If he's coming back and he's going to be able to play corner this year, that is a thing where they're going, hey, he's way ahead of schedule. His ankle's ready for all these cuts and all these moves. He's not just going to be the aggressor that he was at Cheetah running down the line of scrimmage making key tackles. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah, it could be right. I mean, look, we're going to see it, right? We're going to see these guys take the field. They have to have belief in their cuts and make plays. But on the positive side, I'll stick with you there with what Brent said about maybe moving him to cornerback. He was Cheetah last year, Randy. That tells me Kendall Daniels, that came down from Oklahoma State, is probably putting a pretty good clamp on that spot. We talked about it the last 2 weeks. Cheetah has been very hard to find. That's a hybrid linebacker safety, big enough to come up and run support, yet can drop back in pass coverage. Oklahoma has struggled to find that guy year after year. We both talked about Daniels last week, that we thought this might be it. The fact Brent saying Dolby's going to work at cornerback, that lets me know they like what they're seeing out of Kendall Daniels.
Well, that and not only Kendall Daniels, I think a guy you sent me a text before the show, Kip Lewis and Sammy Asamigo, both early nominees or watch list for the Butkus Award. I think Asamigo is another guy that you can watch out, get some of that snap. So not only do they have faith in what Daniels is able to do there, they liked what they saw not only at the end of last season, but in spring workouts with Asamigo working out some at the Cheetah position there. So, it's one of those things at the linebacker position right now, and it's a good thing. It's an embarrassment of riches for Oklahoma right now. That some of their best defensive guys, I feel like, are Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis, and Sammy Asamigo. So they're trying to find different ways, I think, to get all three of those guys on the field at once.
Yeah, I agree with that. We were both kind of surprised. I mean, everybody penciled in Kobe McKenzie to be at that Mike backer spot, taking over for Danny Stutzman, Kip Lewis at outside linebacker, and then Sam Omasigo pops up on the Butkus Award watch list next to Kip Lewis. I don't know what's going to happen there. I've loved Kip, and what I saw from him, we all assumed he was going to take Danny's spot. If it's Sam Omasigo, so be it. He did get some run at Cheetah last year. They would platoon him and Kendall Dolby based on down and distances. Dolby came in on passing downs when he had to drop back into pass coverage. So, yeah, I expect to see some guys there. But Jumping back to Kendall Daniels, man, I watched him play as a freshman at OSU. I loved what I saw. I loved him in high school. Last year, everybody dogged the guy, said that the effort wasn't there, but he was dealing with a world of shit up in Stillwater. I mean, there was a lot going on with that program last year.
And there was, but I will say this still, there's some reason still for concern with the way he did play at Oklahoma State, because you're like, dude, halfway through the season, he had to know he was transferring out. So you would think you'd want to put your best foot forward for yourself the rest of that way. I think he's going to be good at Oklahoma because I'm like you. I watched him at high school. I loved him in his freshman year at Oklahoma State. And I thought, God, when watching him at Oklahoma State in his freshman year, I'm like, that is good. OU's going to kick themselves for letting them get away, letting him get away from them
Right.
and everything. So that is that concern right now. I think going into this year with him, if things don't go right, whether for him, just have little issues early on, is he a kid that's going to start dogging it like Oklahoma State fans that he did last year for them? Or is he a kid that's going to get his head on straight and get in there and be the athletic freak that he can be at the cheetah position?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw that with Oklahoma last year. Supposedly, a lot of wide receivers when things started to not go so hot. It's pretty easy when you're on the gravy train and you're 8-0, 9-0. You're the toast of the town. When you're 5-5, 4-6, it's kind of harder to get motivated to go to practice, play games. We saw some of that at OU last year. Kendall Daniels definitely went through that at Oklahoma State. So that's why jumping back to Michigan, we've got some comments. Y'all should rock those guys. Unfortunately, y'all going to beat Michigan. That one to me, man, I cannot say it enough how important that is for 2025 Oklahoma football. There is so much perception that is up and down on Oklahoma, depending on who you ask nationwide. Locally, people that are out on Brent, they have faith in Brent. That one right there, I mean, the eyes of the nation should be on Norman, college game day, under the lights. If you drop that first big home game in Norman to a true freshman quarterback, that does not signal well for the rest of the season, especially with what's on the schedule.
No, 100%. Here's the thing. I'll give you the other side of it, Dave. I'm one that I think they beat Michigan. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 10 to 14 point win. I don't think Michigan's going to be that good this year, especially early on, at least. It's also one of those things I feel like that, you could go win by 10, 14 points, and then the fan base and national media and local media start overbuilding this team, making it better than they are and everything. Because I think you're right. I think whether you're a Venables guy that you're very negative on, or you think he's the answer at Oklahoma, you're going to sway a lot of those negative people if Oklahoma dominates them. And then as soon as they lose a game, whether it's to Texas or Auburn or whatever, the world's going to come crashing down around this program. So it's going to be interesting to see not only how the coaches staff handles it after that game, but how the players handle it. Because we can all say they don't listen. Players and coaches know what people are saying, out there. And so it's kind of like, all right, don't read too many press clippings because it's going to go the other way as well if you lose something.
Yeah, it will, Randy. And got another comment down here. They're probably being cautious with Eli. Yeah, man. I mean, look, everybody's heard different stuff. I know he had an ankle issue he was dealing with, a lingering thing. Maybe that cleaned some stuff up. And then, guys like Eli Bowen, they can sit back and say, look, we know what he can do. We've seen it in a game. We don't need to really get him out there on the practice field all through camp and really press things. That could be part of it. It's just coming off of a year to where you've had so much issues with the injuries in training room. It's like, God, give us a break. But that could be it, Randy. But look, to your point, man, that could allow them to cycle some younger guys in. I'm really excited for this Cortland Gilroy, however you say his last name. Excellent size as a true freshman. I keep hearing rave reviews about the guy. So maybe it's a good thing to get him out there the first couple games and get some new talent developed.
No, I think it is, and that especially game one. I mean, 100% game one. It's great. Get some of these young guys out there, and I feel like maybe they let. I'm going to give the coaching staff a little benefit of the doubt here, that just maybe they learned their lesson, even though it was on the offensive side of the ball last year, with receivers, right? You had that rash of injuries, and all of a sudden, young guys I'm not going to say they weren't developing, but you had veteran receivers returning. You weren't counting on Zion Kearney being a major factor, carry on being a major factor. So I'm sure they were practicing and those guys were working hard, but they weren't getting near the snaps in fall camp. And all of a sudden, week one, week two rolls around and it's like, hey guys, I know you haven't gotten but like 20% of the snaps. You're going to have to get 100% of the snaps now. And so maybe it's one of those they go, you know what, Eli, let's clean it out. You and I both heard different things. I kind of believe the fact that probably it was the procedure just to clean some things out. Let's go ahead and do it. This way, these guys, to your point, some of the young guys get in there, they get some work, and when it comes day one, they're not freaked out going, what am I doing? I've only been out here with the first team unit like 15 snaps all fall. So, maybe that's one of the things I'll give the coaching staff maybe a little credit here going, they learned their lesson and goes, we got to develop everyone at a level because you never know when these injuries are going to start piling up.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And I'll also say this to that to kind of defend the Zion Reagan, Zion Kearney last year. No, they don't suck. No, they're not outmatched in college football. These are very talented wide receivers that had run with the twos and threes. I mean, all fall camp, leading up into the season, the first weeks of the season, all of a sudden, they're relied on to be the starting XY wide receivers on this offense that had no run game and no offensive line. So I'm really excited to see as we jump to the offense and talk wide receivers. I'm excited to see what the Zions look like year two, especially under a play caller that has a clue about what he's doing with Ben Arbuckle because Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley did not last year. But Ivan Carrion, that guy, I've been saying all offseason, did everybody forget the Navy game? Yes, I know Navy has Navy players, but the guy led OU in receptions. He's 6'6", 6'7". He was a highly touted guy, came to Oklahoma over Texas Tech. Just that size alone, man, gets me fired up for John Mateer to have a target like that in the SEC. I feel better about the wide receivers, especially stuff we've heard about Satania.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. I mean, and Dave, I think to your point with carry on, it kind of goes in, I think, to receiver / tight end. With that build, that frame,
Sure.
I'm not saying he's going to be in there for any blocking, but he can help make up some of that difference. I mean, most of the time you look at a tight end, there's that 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" guy that is that safety blanket for a quarterback. Carry on can fill that role. Go in there and play a receiving tight end on third downs, and stuff like that. That's where I think I'm with you. I feel a little bit better about the receivers, not only with, like you say, Satania, but I mean, I'm ready to see what Jaden Gibson can do. Yeah, Giovanni Gibson. Sorry, we're not sure what Jaden Gibson's going to be able to do. Two Gibsons throws me off. Giovanni Gibson. That's kind of what I'm ready to see. Here we go. Let's see what these guys can do because Gibson, before he hurt his leg, broke his leg in spring, was a freak for them as far as he was actually big, tall guy, athletic with a lot of speed. So I'm kind of ready to see what some of those guys can do.
Yeah, Giovanni Gibson, 6'3", 200 pounds, and does a standing backflip after a touchdown. Enough to sell me. I brought it up on a show, and then like a day later, he breaks his leg. I'm like, I give up. But Randy, we talked a lot about wide receivers, a lot of names. One name we did not say might have the highest ceiling in the entire room. That's true freshman Elijah Thomas. I think people are sleeping on this guy a little bit. I mean, he's from Chakotah, and I think that's why, even though why sleep on the town that produced Carrie Underwood? I think this guy's going to play a lot for Oklahoma this season, especially because, look, Deion Burks, we all think is it, right? That's the name you keep, but we've been hearing that for over a year and haven't really seen a lot. I don't know how much is his fault, how much is not, how much was a bad offense, how much is not, but this opens the door, in my opinion, for a guy like Elijah Thomas to step up and show what he can do and be the one in this offense, even as a true freshman.
No doubt. I mean, he's one I'm excited to see because I think we saw enough out of Burks last year to know this guy's legit. He just had injury problems. I mean, and a lot of people thought maybe it was his heart not playing in the bowl game or question his toughness. I think that was also, it was a crap bowl game that after a concussion and everything, the coaching staff goes, you know what? Why don't you just sit over here? We don't need a late season concussion because you see what it means when guys start racking up the concussions. They become easier and easier to get. I think that's what happened with the bowl game because from everything you heard last year, it was like, all right, going into that bowl game, he's going to play. And I think that was probably the trainers and everything going, you know what? let's not risk it. Why? It's Navy. It's a game where they had what 35 scholarship players left going into that game. I think it was. And so it's kind of like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we don't need to risk that. And so that's where I'm like, I think Burks, but I think to your point with Thomas, he's going to be that nice relief spell for Burks. I think he's a bigger guy than Burks, but I think he's got the same kind of speed, can run those same type of routes. I'm really interested to see how Elijah Thomas breaks onto the Division One scene at Oklahoma this year. I'm not going to say he's going to be Ryan Williams or any of those guys, that level of elite receiver as a freshman. But I think he could be a guy by midseason that has that freshman buzz at receiver nationally.
From what I'm hearing, man, he's got a lot of attention in Norman and has a chance to do big things. I think just nationally the perception is, and really locally, Shakota, Oklahoma. It's not Tulsa Union. It's not Jinx. It's not Bixby or Owasso. So he doesn't get the same credit. But I mean, this guy is a player. I think people are going to see. Deion Burks. Yeah, I'm with you, and I've got a comment here from Jimmy Satterfield. Burks stays hurt. I can't argue with that. Look, I can say I think he's really good and he's flashed. The spring game last year was great. He fired up the crowd. And when he played a little bit last year, he looked pretty good. But definitely needs to be. And none of this is his fault. If you're hurt, you're hurt. It sucks and it takes away from your team. But he's got to be more consistent on the field, making plays. And Randy, to your point, that concussion was bad at Missouri. I thought he got his head taken off. I don't know how many more of these he can take before he's done. Before they Tua the guy. So maybe that opens the door for a guy like Thomas to come in and play more. I hope that's not the case, but at least they've got depth just in case. I did want to touch on the offensive line. Oh, go ahead, man.
Well, just real fast, as I say, the other thing, I think we all sat there. It was one season at Oklahoma where Burks was hurt. It's not like he transferred to Oklahoma from a MAC conference. Purdue may not be great, but they were playing Big Ten teams that the last 2 years has had the national champ, right?
Sure.
And he didn't have those injury issues at Purdue. He was on the field. That's how. So it's kind of like, you know what? Sometimes Todd Lisenby actually said it today, and I've said the same thing before. He said it today on the franchise. We can sit there and everyone can criticize a great training staff, a bad training staff, whatever you want to call them, for all the injuries they had last year. Sometimes injuries just happen. So you kind of hope that for last year, Oklahoma took it in the shorts and they had every one of their injuries, last season. And this is a new year because it's really easy to look and go, man, what's going on with the training staff? But there's been a lot of teams that have the best trainers in the world to have injuries popping up right and left. And so maybe last year was just one of those years.
Brent Venables called that an aberration today. 30 years of coaching, never seen anything like it. And like I said a little while ago, when it's when your team's 3-5 and things aren't good, it might be a little bit harder to get back in that room and get back up to speed than it would be if you were 9-0. So a lot of stuff played into that. Nash talks Texas in the room. Dave, what's up? Isn't one of the incoming freshman wide receivers? Yeah, Elijah Thomas just talked about him. Expect to see big things, both Randy and I, from Elijah. Josh Manning is Fasusi. Second string, Dave and Randy. I'll go ahead and answer first. I think I don't agree with it, but I think he is to start the season. I think Bill Bedenbaugh's track record, he's going to go with experience over a true freshman, regardless if he's being called generational, regardless how good he is in practice. He's going to trust the guy that's done it playing college football. I expect to see Mike Fasusi on the field for Oklahoma starting at tackle heading into Dallas, regardless what else happens. So I think he starts the season second string.
Put it this way. Right now he's second team, and I kind of lead your side that I think he'll start second team to start this season. I don't think it'll be Dallas, but it wouldn't shock me to see Michigan game him rolling out there as the starter. But I'll say this: it's Logan Allen who played well down the stretch last year. It's the rest of those guys, and we talked about it last week. If they play well, I think you're going to see a slower ramp up to Fasusi starting. If they have issue in game one, right out the chute, I don't think you're going to see any problem by week 2, them going, all right, Mike,
Yeah.
here you go. And I'm like you guys, and we've talked about this before. I'm all about playing the best kid, first. But also, if you have guys out there doing the job, and it lets you put in like a Pazusi in the second quarter and not be the starter right off the bat and everything to let them get their feet wet as freshmen, I have no problem with that in the first 2 or 3 games. The only time I have a problem with it was like last year when the guys in front of them look like crap. Why aren't you pulling pulling the ripcord and putting in the young guys? Now, if they're doing that again this year and you don't see Pazusi in there, that's a head scratcher. But if the guys are at least doing a good job, okay. If it means game 2, game 3 before he starts, so be it. Take their time. Let the guys get used to the Division One level.
Yeah, I got no problem with Jacob Sexton back playing. I thought he was pretty good last year. Jake Fisher, we'll see. But, guys like Troy Everett, been around a long time. Going to need to see some progress from those guys as opposed to the young guys on the bench like EPL. There's a Stanford transfer. And Fasusi and Ryan Foje. I mean, it's tough for me to look at last year and what did not happen on the O-line. Yeah, Logan Howell, Heath Ozida started to gel late, but beyond that, there's not a lot besides some EPL flashes when they would play the young guys to look at the old five. Whatever it is, though, Randy, it's vital important for Oklahoma to get that starting five on the field as fast as possible and let those guys start to gel together as a five. We can't see the shuffling in and out, heading into Auburn. If they try that, they're going to be in trouble.
I think the 3 that I feel somewhat confident about, besides Everett at center, I kind of look at it and I feel good about Jacob Sexton at tackle. When he finally got moved back to tackle last year, he was playing really well before he got hurt. I like what I saw out of Zyda last year at the guard, when he came in and got his run. We finally got to see the young guy. It's kind of funny how everyone's wanting to move all these other guys in front of everyone. Ozida was one of those that we thought, hey, why isn't he playing? He's a really good player. We've heard good things. How about we let the guy play this year and see if he can do it, from the start? That's where I'm like, some fans, I'm just like, people, these are the same guys you're now wanting benched are the ones you wanted starting last year that played pretty decent down the stretch last year. But Fasusi, I think I want to see Fasusi and EPL both get in there. If Foje spends the year at second team, I don't have a big problem with that if the other guys are doing their job.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. And at EPL, to me, I'm on the field for Oklahoma, plain and simple. And it sucks that he was a late enrollee and couldn't really get caught up to speed with the rest of the guys. But in my opinion, he's got to be on the field. If you've got a guy they're calling generational at tackle, you got to play him, man. I mean, Bill Bedenbaugh has not liked to play freshmen, young guys. You go back to Caden Green when Bowl, they insert Caden Green finally, and it changed the game. He handled Sweat for Texas the rest of the way. So maybe that's an eye opener for Bill B. I know last year probably had to be these guys are coaching for their job, so they're going to play the best. What's your guys' realistic opinion on this 30, 40, or 50? Randy, you want to answer? You got me, Mr. Heights?
I got you. I thought you lost me. Sorry. I think top 30, Dave.
Oh, you're good.
I lean a little almost to top 20 with this offense and with the quarterback. I mean, you look at it, look at all the weapons they have. Not only Mateer, you got Ott, you got the running backs that got a lot of depth. I think they got a chance to be a top 20, top 25, I think is my low end for this offense.
No, I agree with that. We just talked about it. Anything this offense is going to be or not be is going to hinge on the offensive line. Last year, game 1 against Temple, which Temple is terrible. I think OU beat them 50. It was pretty in the box score, 51-13, something like that. But if you watch that game, down in, down out, I mean, Jackson Arnold got his ass kicked. The Oklahoma offensive line could not move Temple off the line of scrimmage to run the football at all. There were red flags all over the place. So this offense, if it wants to be top 25, the offensive line has to be miles better, Randy. I think they are. I think they've got more depth at the right spots. I think the competitions going on in camp right now are going to yield benefits. And I'm with you. I think there's enough weapons in that backfield on the outside to make this a top 25-ish offense. They're going up against some really good defenses. The one area too concerned about, probably just because we hadn't seen the offense. I think Kanik is more of like an H-back type blocker, but outside of that, Huggins, maybe the Kennesaw State guy. I know that Coach Arbuckle said that the group is really smart today, which I guess that's good.
And I think it can, because here's the thing: we can talk about the tight end group, and I've always won. Yes, do you want to have an athletic tight end that can make big plays? Who doesn't want that? You want that. But at the end of the day, if you've got skill position players that are doing what they're capable of at wide receiver and at running back, you can get by with just a good tight end that can make blocks, assist in the offensive line, and fine if there's a third and short, get out and make a catch here and there. But that's kind of what I see out of this group, being more block heavy with maybe a key third down catch here and there in a game. But I don't expect them to be factored in the game. The key is being able to block. And last year they had to go with the undersized Ballard Sharp that we've talked about over and over again, was not a tight end for blocking. They've at least got a couple of guys alone this year that are made for blocking.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Gmo had a good point. What if they reverse it and go ground and pound against Michigan? I think Oklahoma should start everything where I thought they were going to last year with Jackson Arnold to protect the quarterback. What really helps a quarterback? A run game. What should you do when you have a stable of 5 running backs that are all excellent and you trust all of them? Run the football. I think Oklahoma this year on the O-line has a bunch of road graders. We've seen Bill Bedenbaugh, is a run game coordinator back with Lincoln Riley. Really, really good in the run game. I think Oklahoma should pound that thing until teams stop it. Make that bread and butter and feed off else off the run game. For whatever reason, Oklahoma just refused to do it last year, but I think they've got the tools this season.
I think they got the tools to do it too. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how much that we'll see. Because guess what? It doesn't happen in college football anymore unless you are Michigan. Even Ohio State doesn't do that. Nobody really in the SEC that are your superpowers.
I don't want them to be Michigan. I don't want them to be Michigan. I just want them to have a good running game.
I agree, but I'm saying like what Gmo was saying, it's probably pulling Michigan on them. Hey, forget that. I think we know what Arbuckle is as an offensive coordinator. Oklahoma fans may not like it. He's Lincoln Riley Jr. They'll be the running game, but they're going to throw it, I think, first and foremost. I'm with you on your plan. I like establishing the run early. I don't know if they're going to do that. I mean, it's Arbuckle's going to have to prove it to me, because right now I'm envisioning just like what we've seen when Oklahoma's been the most successful over the last 15 years. All right, air it out. We're going to still have a 1,000-yard rusher, but by God, we're going to get our throws in, and we're going to get them in early and often.
I can't disagree, and it was air raid, Gmo, but my rebuttal to that would be every single one of those Lincoln Riley teams, you go back and look at the splits as far as run pass goes, and they put up, their share of 200 and 250 yards games rushing. I mean, they had a dominant run game as well.
100%. No, and I agree with that. But if you go back and watch most of those, that run game came in after they got the air raid going. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not.
The pass to establish the run.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. So, like in the game against Michigan, I don't expect, hey, they're going to come out and run the ball to establish the throwing game. It's going to be, we're going to come out and air it out. And as soon as we loosen up the defense at the line of scrimmage, then we're going to run it down your throat. And because if you remember Rodney Anderson in the Rose Bowl, it started more with the throwing game, and then Rodney took over and really started dominating the second quarter and everything until Lincoln Riley squib kicked the idiot. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, look, that era in football's over, the I formation, the one-back set, but I hope Oklahoma makes a concerted effort to be extremely balanced this year with the running backs they do have. Gmo, can you guys talk about the D-line along with their depth? Be happy to, Gmo. That's the best defensive front in college football. Said what I said. Jaden Jackson, Dominique Williams, those two are elite run stuffers. I don't want to sell them short. They can also penetrate gaps, make tackles for losses. And then on third and long, you're passing downs. You got Grayson Halton, David Stone. a couple of really quick, big guys that can penetrate gaps, get after the passer on third down. And the outside edge rushers, to me, differentiates this line from the great ones of the past because you got NFL edge rushers with R. Mason Thomas, Marvin Jones Jr. If PJ Adebawore can take a step on the outside, that's another 6'4", 260-pound freak athlete off the outside, and that is the mixture every DC wants to see. Danny Okoye is another one, but you get that inside pressure to go with outside pressure. The quarterback has nowhere to go, can't step up in the pocket, and that's when mistakes happen. Yeah, they got the best D line in the country, in my opinion.
I'll be shocked if it's I'm with you. I want to say the best in the country, but I almost feel like now, not only are you saying it, but a lot of national people around the country are saying it, and everything. And they're kind of like, man, are we all building this up too much? And again, this is me saying, I think they're really, really good. And I think they are one of the best in the country. But it's like saying that, how many fans, and maybe it's just because I know how fans react for every school, you tell them they're the best in the country and they're going to expect them to be what Georgia was 3 years ago. They could be the best in the country and still not be that level of talent. And so maybe that's me trying to temper expectations, and everything. Go, guys, they're not going to be all four of them getting drafted in the first round this year. Could they all eventually be first round draft picks? Yeah, but they're not all at that level right now.
I see that, but I'll have a small rebuttal. If that is your expectation as an OU fan, I can't argue with you. Go ahead and expect that. You start talking about David Stone and Jaden Jackson, those guys to be on one team spread around the SEC would be superstars. That's what I think David Stone's going to be. R. Mason Thomas, second in the SEC in sacks a year ago. He's back, a five-star Marvin Jones Jr. on the other side. But to me, it's not the starting four. The down four to me has nothing to do with it. It's the depth behind that. When you start talking about Dominique Williams and Grayson Holton, that rotation on the inside to go with what they got on the outside is why I think it's the best front in college football. There probably is a better down four starting somewhere. Maybe Texas could throw their hat in the ring for that. I love Colin Simmons. But as far as depth goes, all the way around on the defensive front, I'll take Oklahoma's over anybody's.
No, I'm with you, and I'm with you. That's kind of my selling point for this team. It's that depth. It's like, my goodness, they're just going to run guys at you that I think out of the eight of them, again, I don't mean like first round draft picks, but I think all eight of them are legit NFL guys that will get some form of action at the next level. And that's what you want out of a defensive front. If you can at least go, hey, we got guys that are going to play in the league. That's it. That's when you finally reach the SEC defensive level. And I feel like, actually, I look around the defense of Oklahoma. I feel that way across the board on Oklahoma. There's 9 guys on that defense you could see in the NFL over the next few years.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the safeties as we wrap it up in a little bit. Josh Manning, I'll give you top 5. Gates to do it. Gmo, any freshman and lineman or freshman edge guys turning heads? Funny you should ask. Yes, Trent Wilson, 6'2", 270 pounds from Henry Wise. Marlboro, Maryland has been talked about quite a bit. Down in Norman as a true freshman. How much run can he get with the depth we just talked about coming back this year? I don't know. Look, Todd Bates likes to cycle a lot of guys in. So you might see him early on against some non-con teams. Maybe if OU's good as people think they're going to be, maybe some blowouts. But I expect to see Trent Wilson on the field this year.
I think he'll get some action. And, there's one other guy I haven't heard a lot about, a redshirt freshman that got in the portal, got right back out last year, and that's Nigel Smith. If you remember when he committed a couple of years ago, he was highly thought of, and he's playing the defensive end spot now, and I'm kind of like, all right, how does he factor into that? What can he do? Because he's a very athletic guy. I kind of want to see what he's able to do if he gets a little run this year. And that's kind of the thing. If you want to see what separates Oklahoma this year's defense and what Brent Venables has actually built on the defensive side of the ball from when he got here in year 1 and year 2, guys like Nigel Smith, and this is not an insult to Nigel, would have been guys everyone's going, he's going to start at nose tackle. He's got to perform this year. It's kind of nice to be in a spot to have a talented kid like that and go, you know what? Let's bring him along slowly. We think he's going to be good for us, but maybe not now.
he's a guy we're not even talking about. I mean, until the very end of the defensive line segment of this show, and he was one of the highest touted recruits Oklahoma had a couple of years ago. Nigel moved to DT. Jimmy Satterfield is saying,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's a guy with,
DTDN.
there's a D there somewhere. That's a tough rotation to break. Dominique Williams, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, and Grace. Maybe he can get some run. But yeah, I also wanted to talk safeties before we hop out of here. We've talked
By
about
the way,
Eli Bowen.
As we talk about D's, did you happen to hear, was it Hugh Freeze today? The
Length and girth?
Length and girth? Sorry, you talked about D's, and I was like, wait a minute. How do you say that? You got to have length and girth. That's a sign to me right there. If you're an Auburn fan, look, and I know everything can be typed out of context, but if I'm an Auburn fan, I currently put my tickets on a secondary sellers market, trying to make my money back now, because to me it just feels like Hugh Freeze is just like he played golf all summer. He's guiding to another buyout.
Yeah. Length and girth comment. Kelly brought, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like Hugh Freeze. I hope Jackson Arnold's a whole lot better for him. Although, again, I'll never say Jackson Arnold is as bad as people think. He had a crap situation the way around. But, Randy, the safeties to top off defensive talk. We've talked about Eli Bowen, his brother Peyton. As a true freshman, really flashed. You go back to the Cotton Bowl. The hit on Quinn Ewers that dislodged the ball, created a turnover. He was all over the place as a freshman last year, had some nagging injuries. This year, back to full strength. You assume has a starting safety spot next to a guy that I think can be a bona fide superstar in Robert Spears-Jennings. I love that back end of the Oklahoma defense. Both excellent in run support and both very good tracking down the ball in coverage.
Well, not only the two starters, I'm like you. I think Robert Spears-Jennings, when I said there's 8 or 9 guys that'll be in the league, RSJ is one of those 8 or 9 guys I look at and go, yeah, next level guy. And I think I will say Peyton Bowen came in with more hype, and I think he's really good and may end up in the NFL. He's got to come along, I think, a little more. I like those two, but I like the guys behind them, especially Boganowski. I mean, we all talk about what a hard hitter that Spears-Jennings is. Boganowski, he's going to lay some people out.
Boganowski's going to kill somebody if he's not careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of anxious to watch him. I think the safeties are another position. Again, we saw Lincoln Riley do it when he was here. Offense, he really built up the depth and made them, let's be honest, for all the OU fans that want to hate on him, had a dominant offense and had great offensive players. I think Brent's definitely done that same thing, except on the defensive side of the ball, and it's being shown out now in year 4.
Yeah, I mean, as much as people can talk about the negatives with Brent, and there's a lot to point to: 22-17, 2-11 against the AP Top 25, 5-9 in one-score games, 0-3 in bowl games, 1-2 against Texas. The one thing you cannot point to is the defense has gone downhill since he arrived in Norman. The problem I have with that, John Blake's defenses were pretty good. Howard Schnellenberger's, Gary Gibbs, that side of the ball wasn't an issue. The problem these coaches have, they can't put it both together. Now, to Lincoln Riley's credit, he had no defense at all, but what that offense did that you're talking about was good enough in a pretty weak Big 12 most years to win a bunch of games and conference championships. It's just a matter of putting both together. Last year, the offense was not remotely close to being ready to play D1 football, any level.
No, 100%. And I think the one thing that excites me, because in year 2, the defense was not ready to be that next level for Brent. But I think we saw in year 2, with a healthy quarterback and an offensive coordinator he trusted, the offense can be, he does stay hands off. He does let them do their thing. And that offense was pretty impressive. I mean, they went 10-3, and really the games they lost, it was on the defense. And it was kind of because, injuries popped up and they didn't have that depth at the time to replace Danny Stutzman when he got hurt in that 2-game losing streak. That's kind of where I'm like, I'm excited about this year because I feel like they've got an offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing. that Brent wouldn't have brought him in, I don't think, if he didn't trust him, and everything. I'm really interested to see now that Brent's got his side of the ball taken care of. He lets Arbuckle do his thing. What this team can do this year, I think there's reason to have doubts from what we've seen out of 2 out of 3 years with Brent Venables. But I think there's also reason to have some very promising optimism if you're an Oklahoma fan going into this year.
Yeah, and because what you just said, I talked about John Blake, Howard Stellenberger. They didn't do 10 games. They didn't whip Alabama. That wasn't a last-second walk-off field goal. It wasn't a miraculous double overtime. They stomped the hell out of Alabama start to finish. Alabama, a top 10 college football playoff contender last year with Jalen Milroe, and they were never in the game against OU. I never saw that in the dark days of OU football. They got a very lucky win against Texas in '96, but the point is, he's got it. He's capable of putting it together and being a complete head coach. Was last year just the outlier, and year one was just losing too much from Lincoln Riley sneaking out the back door? We're going to find out, man. I'm excited. Look, I'm starting to buy into this thing that, again, the offensive line to me is the key to everything. I love Mateer. I love the weapons. Can they block it up? Can they run the football? If they can, I expect 8+ wins.
Well, and it's I'm right there with you. I'm right to 8 to 9 wins, I think, this year. And Dave, it's like we all say, well, look at his record against Texas. It's not great. It's 1-2. The 1 year he had a quarterback in the game, we can say it was a last-second win, but they were in that game just like a Lincoln Riley game, back and forth shootout, right? He had an offense. He had something that could at least complement the defensive time. That's why I'm like, all right, I want to see what this team can do. I want the offense to truly be good. Because if Brent does lose his job, let's just say they don't win enough games and he loses his job. I'm a guy that I've known Brent since he arrived on campus in '99. I've dealt with him back then when he was a defensive coordinator. I truly do like the guy, but I'm also not one going, he needs to keep his job regardless because he's likable. No. But if he loses his job, I want him to lose it because, yeah, he lost games, but at least he had everybody in spot. They were doing the right things, and guess what? Breaks went against them. Not because of no offense. It looked inept. He looks inept. And it goes back to what Gmo's saying, right? In-game decisions management will be pivotal. I want it to be like, just coach. Make the right decisions. Do the right things. And if you lose games, guess what? You lost games. That happens. But don't let it be because of stupidity.
I couldn't have said it better, man. I mean, Brent, look, to his credit, if this is the last year, he's going out fighting. I mean, they tried to get Jim Knowles to be DC. I love that move. I would have loved to seen it. If you can't get the best DC in college football, you get the one that was before he became a head coach, and that's Brent Venables. And Brent said, you know what, to hell with it. I'll call defensive plays because I'm pretty good at it. He's on that side of the ball. You got an established OC with Ben Arbuckle on the other side with his quarterback, third year together. That's why I think we're starting to hear national people come around on Oklahoma. But the in-game management, the stuff he's talking about, turnovers, discipline, ball security with Brent Venables has been an issue all 3 years. Even the 10-win season, losses at Kansas, OSU, turnovers bit him in the ass. For whatever reason, he's teaching ball security. DeMarco Murray coaches it. The quarterback's coach goes through it. But for whatever reason, these guys cannot hang on to the football. You got dumb penalties, jumping off sides, ripping helmets off. Stop all that. Don't beat yourselves. And I think this team can do pretty good things. I'm not drinking all the Kool-Aid yet, but I'm starting to buy in.
And I'm not either. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid either, but I think what Satterfield said for some of the decisions, Jimmy Satterfield said he thinks Wilson will help with BV with game management. I definitely think having a guy, whether he had a ton of success as a head coach or not, somebody that's been there before in his ear during games, it's only going to be able to help him do the right things, hopefully. Help make those decisions. I mean, because we've seen bad decisions from Brent year in and year out. I mean, again, the one that still baffles me and it'll bug me till I think my dying day, or maybe Brent rolls off and turns into Nick Saban here. It's still last year, the fake field goal against Missouri that you fucking called. It was your play. You didn't get an interception and you're celebrating it. You guys called it. You did it. You convert it, and you get a delay a game because Y'all acted like you didn't know what the hell was going on. Those are questionable things. And that's why I'm saying I just want those to be eliminated. If he does lose his job, I want it to be because he was coaching good, making the right decisions. And you know what? The team on the other side of the ball that those days were just better than them.
Yeah, go down fighting. Go down with all your guns up. And that what you're talking about at Missouri, that went from a first and goal at the 5 to a first and goal at the 10. OU has to settle for a field goal. You do enough of those dumb things every game, you're going to lose it. And if you do enough game in, game out, you'll finish with a losing record. So Brent just coached the defense. I like where everything's at. I think they've got a great staff in place. They've got the players. Just come out of camp healthy-ish. Eli Bowen already announced he's going to be out for a while. And we'll see what happens. Randy, great show. Anything you want to wrap up
I'll say
with?
this. The other thing I do like about, because I went Saturday to the season kickoff event for Sooner Sports Properties and the Sooner Club. I heard Coach talk there. I heard him talk today. And I will say there is a difference in his tone and how he's talking. And he mentioned it, I
Agreed.
think it was in today's press conference, about how he doesn't really talk up kids and say how good they are. He's actually doing that, which to me, that translates to a coach that, right, wrong, or indifferent, because for the last 2 years he built the roster. But again, you had a roster already there and you're working with what you had. That I truly do feel, which in year 4 it should be, that it's his roster. He knows what he's got. He's not trying to fit a
Right.
round peg into a square hole. You know, a Riley player into one of his, into one of the Brent Venables players. These are his, and I feel like there is a confidence that even in years past, even in the 10-3 season, we haven't heard this kind of confidence, which is weird coming off the 6 and 7 season.
Yeah, but I agree. This is the year 4 mark, the old cornerstone of coaches. Once they get hired, what used to be you'd give them 4 years because that's a full recruiting cycle, right? You get all your players in, you get them developed, and whatever takes the field in year 4 should have the fingerprints of the head coach all over him. And I agree. I think he's different at the podium. He's not talking for 20 minutes before opening questions. It's all business. You can tell that they're very serious on winning football games again. So yeah, I agree. He's got a different air to him, and I think he's seeing behind closed doors kind of what we're starting to feel, that this is going to be a pretty salty football team led by the defense. But everybody in the chat, thanks for stopping in. Jimmy Satterfield, Gmo, great job, gentlemen. Thank you. Josh Manning had to go put his kid to sleep. Buddy, thanks. It's a great show. Can't do it without you. But Randy, have a pleasant evening, and we'll do it again next week.
You as well, man. Talk to you later.
For Randy Heights, Dave Myrick, Red River North. Talk to you guys next week.